Some didn't work out, but you make them work out. A lot of times when you have a deal that doesn't work out, you have to make it work out. That's where you're really good, when the economy crashes and you know what to do. And I never went bankrupt. Many people went bankrupt in the early 90s. I never did, but I negotiated incredible deals. I mean, if you were a deal junkie, that was a great time to be. And now my company is very, very big, much, much, much bigger than it ever was before. And I've had just a great time. I've had a lot of great experiences.
How do you select what you brand as yours? Because Steve Brewer tells me there's a lot of things that you've branded with your name. How do you pick what's good and what's not?
Well, I used to just take the really good ones. I'd put my name on and I'd use it and it would be fine. For the most part today, I only want to do deals where my name can go on it because it means it's sort of an ultimate thing. And the name has become to be known really as super quality, whether it's in construction or whether it's whatever I might do. And when I put the name on a building, for instance, I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel next to Grand Central Terminal. That was before I was using my name, and I called one of the restaurants Trumpets. That was sort of the beginning of things to come. And it was a nice restaurant that I built within the Grand Hyatt. The Grand Hyatt was on 42nd Street and Park Avenue, Lexington Park, and it was good. It was a very successful job. And I ended up selling that and really coming out great, and then I did other things after that. But I started putting my name on as the sites got really good and as I was able to be wealthy enough to buy the great locations. And today I have so many iconic sites. I mean, I just bought Turnberry in Scotland, which is one of the incredible places and the home of the Open Championship, sometimes referred to as the British Open, but it's had 4 of them and it'll have many more, and we're doing a job there. I call it Trump Turnberry. And I did that with approval because I wanted to get the approval from the RNA, and they said absolutely. But when I do that, it's not an ego thing, it's a marketing thing because I just get much higher pricing when I do it. I mean, it's over the years, it's meant a lot from a marketing. I've bought many, many failed projects. Over the last 10 years, I bought many failed projects that were in great locations and everything else, and I call it Trump. As an example, I have 18 golf clubs, not including Doral. And I call them Trump National Golf Club Philadelphia, or Trump National Golf Club Washington, D.C. And I'm convinced they're all really successful, and I'm convinced that if I didn't call them Trump, I'm not even sure that they would have been very successful.
I recall several years ago your name was coming up, and Billy Crystal, the comedian, said, I think at the Academy Awards, he pointed you out, and he said, Donald Trump riding through New York City, looking up at the building, saying, got it, need it, got it, need it, need it.
Need, that's true, need. Because we're sick, I mean, you need, how much do we need? But it's just fun. I mean, for me, it's fun. If you're not going to have a good time doing it, don't do it. I tell that to people all the time. I sometimes will make a speech where friends of mine ask me to make a speech about success and what it takes. And I always say you have to love what you're doing, and you really do. If you don't have a passion, I know the people in this room, I know a couple of you actually, and the passion you have for what you do is incredible. And I know Steve, who put on this whole thing, and his passion with his wife, he came to New York to see me, and I said, man, you're really passionate, aren't you? It's easier when it's sold out or when you have standing room. If it was 50 people in here, maybe it wouldn't be as good. But Steve has tremendous passion. That's why he's so successful with his company. So I think that love and that passion is a very important element.
Well, after all of that you've done in the real estate business and getting higher and higher in effect, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Iowa is going to have caucuses in January of next year. And a lot of people come to Iowa just to kind of see which way the wind's blowing, so to speak.
True.
And many of them never would say, why they're here, but they would tell you perhaps maybe something of their political philosophy. Which party are you a member of?
I'm a Republican. I'm conservative, quite conservative, and I'm actually making a speech tomorrow, one of the speakers tomorrow, and I basically want to see America be great again. We're not great. We're a debtor nation. We're going to soon owe $20 trillion, much of it borrowed from China and other countries, and I would like to see our country be great again. We have tremendous potential. I just see recently where China is building very quickly a super train, a high-speed railroad between Beijing and Hong Kong. That's a seriously long trip, but they're going to do it in a rapid period of time. and we can't fix LaGuardia Airport. We can't fix our bridges. Just the other day in Ohio, a bridge fell down. We can't fix, and they're really, I mean, if you look at the statistics on these bridges and things, they're really dangerous. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our country is falling apart. Our military is not what it was. And I can tell you in real estate, every week I get a listing, some military bases for sale. We're selling all these military bases. And you know, with what we're doing right now and with the world hating us so much, we should not be knocking the military. We should be building it up. But just being in the real estate business, so many bases are being sold. I say, where do they stay with all of this action? So I'm making a speech, and you know, basically, you know, hopefully it's about competence, and it's about, you know, when they do an Obamacare, which is terrible for people, terrible, and it's going to be ruinous to the country when it really kicks in 16. It's really going to kick in. So the next president's going to get a real shocker. But there's much better plans that are much better for the people and much less expensive for the country, and they didn't do that. But you look at what happened where they spent $5 billion on a website. Now, I have websites. We all have websites. And I mean, I have websites that cost me nothing, and they're big websites. How do you spend $5 billion on a website? And by the way, then it didn't work on top of everything else. So the country is just fed up with it, and that's what I'm all about.
We've been going through this conference today talking about the impact of various things, weather and exports and government on agriculture. And some people are worried about the president over the next 2 years, and other people are worried about the Congress, of what they may do and may not do that relates to business. One of them an inheritance tax, another to be potentially the change in the capital gains tax, 1031 exchanges.
Yeah.
What's your biggest concern about the next 2 years in Washington?
Well, I think a lot of bad things could happen on taxes. I mean, I know owning a farm, a lot of times you don't have great liquidity, but you have great value. And you want to pass it on to your children, and they're making the inheritance laws much, much tougher. So that's something that's going to affect a lot of the people in this room. It's going to affect my family too, because I have a lot of things that are, you know, very valuable, and it's going to affect everybody. But the inheritance taxes, assuming you want to leave it to your children and your family, which a lot of people do, especially farms, they're making it very, very tough in terms of the inheritance tax. The 1031 laws and Section 1031, you know, that's all, I mean, that deferral is a very valuable thing, and a lot of people are saying that's going to be ended, deferring capital gains. As you know, you saw the other day, they want to raise the capital gains tax very substantially. They really want to raise it to a large extent. Essentially, they want to raise it also on inheritance. And a lot of bad things are happening with taxes. Now, whether or not that gets through Congress, I don't know. But I've heard some of the Republicans saying certain things they sort of can live with. And, you know, I'm very disappointed because I'm a Republican and I'm a very conservative person. And I think that they're not negotiating very well with Obama. And I think they're not getting what they should be getting. But it's going to have a big effect on farms and a big effect on farmers and the farmer's family.
If we look at you and what you hold as ideals, what president of the 20th century, early 21st, would you describe as the one that you admire the most?
Well, the one I like the best is Ronald Reagan. I've always liked him. I knew him, you know, relatively well. I was much younger, but I knew him quite well. I always helped him and supported him. He liked me. I actually have a nice picture of myself and Ronald Reagan, and it's one of my treasured pictures. I liked what he stood for. I liked his style. I liked how he represented the country. I remember once on Lincoln's birthday, he was on Lincoln's Day, he was putting a wreath down in an area, and he just looked so presidential. He had a great manner, a great style. And, you know, and his thought process was much more in tune to mine than certainly what you have today.
Did you know he started in radio in this town?
I had heard that, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. And he did okay, but he moved on quickly.
Yeah, he wasn't as... So are you saying if a person stayed in radio their whole career, they're a failure?
Well, I know a couple of, I'll tell you, I know a couple of your radio guys here, and they're great. But Ronald Reagan, he was here, and he was, I heard he was terrific, and, you know, he did move on, and who would have thought this was going to happen? You know, he was a successful actor, but he was sort of, they called him a B actor. It turned out that he was an A actor. But he, you know, if you ask me who was the guy, I would say it would be Ronald Reagan.
For this upcoming time, either shiver or salute, who do you think will come forth as candidates. Let's go with the Democrat Party first. Who might emerge?
Well, I know all the players well, and so many of them come up to my office asking me for support and asking me to back them. Many of the people that you have here are asking me all the time, and I'm making my own decision. So, I say it's a little bit early to do that, right? But if you look at the Democratic side, certainly it would be Hillary has, got the big lead, and I don't know that that'll stay. Don't forget, she had the big lead a number of years ago when Barack
2008.
Obama took it away, and
Right.
I would say it was almost equal. I think she's probably, in a way, stronger. Now, you have to ask about health, and you have to ask about physical, because it's a brutal, brutal period of time when you have to go through that. And then you have to ask yourself, did she do a good job as Secretary of State and other places? And a lot of people have very strong opinions about that. So I think she can absolutely be beaten. But I do think from the primary standpoint, I think that she'll probably win. They have a couple of people running against her. Webb and O'Malley probably are running, definitely. I think Elizabeth Warren would give her the toughest battle. But I think Hillary will probably get the nomination, and I think that she'll be formidable. On the Republican side, I mean, I've been very vocal. Mitt Romney was given a chance. He should have beaten Obama. He didn't. He did very poorly in the last month and a half, very, very poorly. I don't know what happened to him, but he did very poorly. A lot of people are very angry at him for that reason. I am. He choked. Something happened. It's like a deal maker that can't make a deal. It's like a golfer that can't sink the 3-foot putt on the 18th hole. Something happened to him. I don't know what it was. And, the 47% comment, that he doesn't care about 47% was a bad comment, and, that's not going away. He's got a lot of problems, and if you remember when he lost, his son or somebody came out and made the statement that he really didn't want to be president, or never did anyone not try so much to be. And I'm saying, that's not the kind of that's the kind of a thing a deal maker might say, because you feel better if you don't make the deal. So if Steve doesn't make a deal, you say a lot of times, I don't care. You tell your wife, I don't care. It doesn't matter, because it makes you. But not when you're running for president, and not when you have that many people that wanted you to win. But he didn't get out the vote. John McCain actually had more people voting. Had he gotten the amount of votes that John McCain got, I think it would have been probably a different story. But so I just don't think he should be running. Bush, we've had enough Bushes. That's the way I look at it. I feel strongly about it. Other candidates, I like them all. I mean, I know most of them, and I like them all as people. As to whether or not that they can do a good job, maybe it's a little bit too early for me to say. But I do think that Romney has not earned his stripes, because that was a race that, by the way, is much easier to have won than running against Hillary. In my opinion, running against a president who was doing a truly horrible job was a much easier race to win than running against Hillary. So I think Romney should be disqualified, and I think that Bush, I just think we've had it with the Bush family.
What about Mr. Christie, just across the river from you?
Well, I know him very well, and he's got some difficulties, as you know, and if he runs, he'll be formidable too, and we'll see what happens. But he hasn't announced that he's running, but we'll really have to see. I mean, I like him, he's a friend of mine, but we're going to have to see whether or not he runs.
Here's a challenge and a frustration that I have, and it is that the candidates to get nominated have to move left a long way or right a long way. But yet, when we come to the general election, the people want to elect people who truly can go to Washington and govern. And now we have quite a lot of people who are so resolute in their view that they can't move to the middle enough to truly govern, and they're on both sides. And sometimes, the Farm Bill this last year, the two sides, extremes, beat the middle.
Right, that's true.